Yay. It's setting up. Yay. Yay. Welcome to Live Now with Veenu and Chuck. We're taking a little bit of a detour on how we're going to progress with this.
Yay.
And welcome to Live Now with Veenu and Chuck. We're taking a little bit of a detour on how we're going to progress with. Gotta love technology. I just had to close it out. So this is our first time doing a live YouTube from our own situation and not having Zingo TV. So thank you for bearing with us as we learn the ins and outs of technology. I guess this is what we call, Chuck, living in the moment.
You know, things happen, and I'm even more grateful for our AV technicians and our executive producers and our directors. And it's like, whoo! And we have the privilege of delivering messaging and information in real time to help enhance lives. And bless the people that support this entire community. It reminds me of the Oscars last night, right? It's like they're like, hey, and I won an Oscar. All you in the upper balcony, we won an Oscar, and mom and dad, we won an Oscar. And it's like, yes, because it takes a village. So
Totally. And again, props to those that do technology on a day-to-day basis and the patience that everyone has learned. You know, we keep talking about COVID, right? Because it was such a time in our lives where the world stopped. We turned to fear. We turned to, what's missing in our life versus what do we have? And here's another gift I would like to say we got from COVID. The gift of patience with technology, because everyone went to technology. I think there's a feeling in the air that we should have it down by now, but Chuck and I are here to tell you that's not the truth at all. And we're going to do the best we can with what we got. So here we go, Chuck. So Chuck and I were talking about what would be a great topic to bring to you, since last week we talked about the facade of faking it to make it and that imposter syndrome. And we thought one of the things that we actually talked as a antidote to imposter syndrome is self-care. So Chuck and I were talking about what can we do to start with some of the strategies we talked about to help you all out there and help ourselves, because we're definitely listening to ourselves as we speak, about learning about self-care and the importance of it. So I'm going to hand this over to you, Chuck, so you can go ahead and really just talk about, how important self-care is, especially when you're living that life of burnout.
Listen, so we have grown up in an environment that taught us that there's 6 human needs. That we have a need for certainty. We have a need for, if you want to call it, uncertainty/variety, significance, love and connection, and growth and contribution, the last 2 being more spiritual. But then we have some innate human needs. We need air. We need water. We need food. We need shelter. And the last one that actually goes unchecked most often is we still require love and connection. So the one that actually crosses over in both ecologies is love and connection. So let's get to the basis of it. And let's start with the basic building blocks. You need air. And here's the truth. Most people have learned how to be shallow breathers. Well, one of the fastest, easiest ways to actually exercise self-care is to start breathing. You can do box breathing. So you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4, and hold for 4 seconds. And just a few minutes of this will help hyperoxygenate your body. It will help feed you where you actually have more clarity, and fatigue seems to melt away. It's something so simple. What do we tell our kids when they're hyperventilating? Like, you slow down and breathe. In fact, when you come into this universe and the doctor gets a hold of you at least old school was, they rub your little hiney and then they give you a little, and they're like, "Oh, you just been indoctrinated into the use of Earth," and it's a lot because it resets our nervous system in a moment, and children start to breathe. So breathing is an important part of the process. Diaphragmatic breath. If you just want to take your hand and put it right above your rib cage and just below your breastbone, and you can feel right there where your rib cage is, right there. When you watch babies sleep, you will see their tummies rising up and down because everyone's trying to look in bikini shape or in gym shape. They will go ahead and hold their abdomen in and not have very wide, what we'll call full cavity breathing. This simple exercise, when you're sitting at your desk, when you find yourself, your stress level going up, breathing in through your nose and just exhaling out. This is one of the fastest, easiest hacks to plug into your triad, your physiology, focus, and language, where you can start to change behavior and the meaning behind what you're experiencing. It also changes your focus because now you're able to get centered. So one of the areas is that. Number two, high freaking hydration. If you're not drinking enough water and staying hydrated during the course of a day, your body is made up of 90% water. So if you're not getting in high quality water, not just water, by the way, because if there's a pond and you jump in it and you decide to take a drink, well, you may have some other things that are going to actually help release, have your body release water, called Montezuma's Revenge, which you don't want to deal with. So let's be very clear. Clean drinking water that serves you. Some people use a Kangen, a water purification system that has exactly with, it's going to go ahead and increase or decrease pH levels for you. Why is this important? Knowing what your body needs.
Yes.
The third thing is the food that you're putting in your body. We've heard this since we were kids. You are what you eat. You are what you eat. And so if I'm eating, because I took a trip to California and I go, hey, got to get my Del Taco. I mean, it's like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
I know, sister. And it's like, hey, you got to get the combo meal. You got to do the whole 9 yards. And it's like, boy, you can feel your left ventricle slamming shut. I'm not saying you do it all the time, but as long as you're doing an 80-20, zig and zag. Oh, I know. It could be. Listen, I'm glad I was there for a weekend and not a week.
I was going to say, so like if I'm only there a week out of the year and I happen to have it, only like once a day, does that?
Well, when your blood type converts over to nacho cheese, then all of a sudden you've got an issue. So we just need to understand that self-care actually starts with how it makes you feel.
Yes.
When you're breathing, when you're drinking, some people it's water, some people it's other things. When it's food, if it's natural and organic and live and you're putting it in your body, it's like, boy, on a hot summer's day, there's really nothing better than just amazing fresh fruit or just a salad. And it's like, it's so invigorating. Right. But this is what your body needs. So let's be clear about this. It's your self-care. This isn't communal care. This is your self-care. Right. This goes back to the full premise of what the flight attendants say on a flight. Who are you going to put the oxygen mask on first? So energy, breathing. But then we're going to get down to some two serious ones real quick too. One is that you actually have an abode or a place to call home. Now, for some people, and I'm not making a judgment call here, their home is a palatial place. For others, it's a single bedroom, or they may even be renting a room. For some people, home is a car.
Yeah.
It's an RV. And here's the beautiful part. Home is where the heart is, where you can lay your head, where you can rejuvenate and rest. When we talk about home, what we're really talking about is sleep. We're talking about an environment of loving care where your body can detoxify. When you're going all day long, if you're not getting that rejuvenative rest, that deep REM sleep, you're not allowing the myelin layers of your brain and the cascading effect of washing away any neural toxicity that's accumulated in your mind. When you
Right.
dream, when you sleep, that's when you release. This is a huge part of self-care. So if you say, hey, I'm a restless sleeper, well, that may be caused by nutrition. It may be caused by lack of hydration. It may be caused due to sleep pattern deprivation. And they're like what? I go, sleep apnea, where people are, you're like, are they holding their breath for 3 minutes? Because I haven't heard them take another breath. You're like, okay, I love you. Wake up. Okay. Oh, okay. Woo, you're back with us.
Anyway,
Woo, that's a good thing. Why? Because it's like when I was about ready to take these wires out of the wall and clear, because you weren't breathing.
right.
And it happens that people are going, is that a real thing? I'm like, don't have to take my word for it. Go on YouTube, pull up a video. The last one is imperative. And this is part of the human condition. That's why it's part of both ecologies that cross over. And it's the loving connection part.
Mm.
People are so aspiring, Veenu, to find a place where they can actually connect with another human being, where they can actually find, they'll settle for connection. And what they're seeking is love. They're seeking a deeper level. They go, oh, two dudes. I go, they're not looking for a bromance necessarily, but in that connection, there's respect, there's commonality, there's a sharing of masculine energy, not like, fighting. It's like, hey, it could be as competitive as darts. It could be as competitive as horseshoes. It could be competitive as shooting baskets with someone or playing tennis or working out. There's this one upmanship ideology. And for the feminine, it's a connection of appreciation and
Mhm.
sharing. It's
Right.
so important to be able to have the conversations and talk and connect and love and laugh and have that outlet without judgment.
I love it. I love all of it. And like, there's so much I want to touch on too. And I want to go back to, you know, that sleep is part of the process, along with breathing, eating, and drinking water. Like, I feel like not one's more important than the other. It's a combination of it all. And I see that, like, especially high energy people,
Yeah.
such as ourselves, that kind of feel like we're burning the candle at both ends of the stick
Mm-hmm.
and thinking that the candle's just getting bigger, and in actuality it's getting smaller until there's nothing left, and we think that we're invincible. And I'm sure we're just talking about us, right? Like, no one else listen, because it's definitely not about you at all. It's only about Chuck and I. It's that moment where you think there's one more minute you can squeeze out, one more thing you can squeeze out of your day, but what's stopping? Something's got to give. And so, like, even today is a great example. I'm preparing for a trip. My husband's preparing to go to work tomorrow in Florida, and we got to get the kids packed. We have so much going on in home, right? So that's our home life right now. And then I have my work life. I got clients I got to see, regardless, with the passing of one of our Zingo family parents, you and I decided that we wanted the, congruency of our show since we just started it. So we decided that we were going to do this.
Right.
Then I had to get some stuff done to prepare for my trip. And I forgot to eat today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, and there's a part of me that's like, you know what? I got this. I'll just figure it out. I will go, I have a 15-minute break. I'm going to go run. I'm going to eat something. I'll bring it upstairs. I'll continue working and I'll eat, because I don't need to ask for help. And I think that's the biggest issue, is that we think that we don't need to ask for help, that we got it. And finally, maybe it was because I know I was doing self-care, so I needed a great example. I reached out to my husband and I texted him. I said, I'm on my way home. This is my schedule. I have 1 hour. That's it until 9:00 tonight. I would love to eat dinner then. Do you have anything planned? And because I understand my husband's not a mind reader, I needed to be more specific, meaning that I'm ready to eat at 6, not for you to start preparing at 6.
Right.
And my husband is so great. He had dinner ready for me to eat, right? But I'm going to tell you, it wasn't always like that. There was a part of me that felt, nope, I could add that one more thing. It's almost like that, a warrior mentality, that I don't need help. I got this. And it wore me down. It wore me down because, like you, I light up by giving. I light up by volunteering. I light up by the work I do, serving other people to help them see their own greatness. I light up by helping my kids. Like, it's always about giving, like giving everything I got lights me up, that I forget sometimes it's okay for me to take a break
Right.
and receive. So I forget to ask. And so I'm telling you all this who's listening, because I really want you to take that in for a moment. How many times a day do you actually ask for help?
Mm.
Because I can tell you, for me, even today, it's barely any. Like there's like a big fat zero a lot of those days. And some of it's because of habit. Some of it's because, I really don't need any help. I got things going on. Other times it's because I don't have to ask my husband. He's constantly bringing me water and bringing me fruit and bringing me food. So it's constantly coming. So I don't need to ask. And sometimes I just forget. If I was going to be completely honest, I just forget, as I forgot to eat all meals except for one.
And here's the ticket. If you don't schedule it, you're not going to do it. And so part of this is being sensory aware enough to understand that you are as important as everyone else. When we say we, the only time it becomes we is when me is a part of that we.
Right.
If we don't integrate ourselves, then it becomes a challenge. And you bring up an amazing point, Veenu, as you always do. And that is, it's not just about the physicality. When we start to talk about this, everything is systemic. We're made up of really primary components of body, mind, and spirit.
Right.
It's never about one thing. It's about the whole ecology. And what body, mind, and spirit is seeking is harmony. So when there's a need, a emotional need, some people eat, some people drink, and not water. Some they have a different substance that they like to put in their bodies called libations that may have been fermented and have a little bit of alcohol in it or a lot of alcohol in it. For other people, it's sweets. Their sweet tooth kicks in. For other people, they move towards, and this is going to sound maybe awkward, but it's real. They move towards self-pain, pushing themselves beyond the comfort level of their workout, their gym. But they're doing this when they haven't eaten anything. They're doing this when they haven't had nutrition. Nutrition doesn't just come to you in what goes into your mouth or your lips. It's what you put on your skin. It's what you put in your mind, and it's what you fill in to your soul. That's all nutrition. And finding that space and grace to be able to feed oneself. And they go, oh, come on, Chuck. So are you saying I have to go to church? And I go, oh, you don't have to do it.
Right.
You feel more in tune in taking a few minutes with God or the universe or energy or Buddha or, Allah, whatever the case might be. There's no judgment. What there is your reality. Right. Second part to this, and thank you for bringing this up, is that because I know we both married up big time. It's Julie's amazing. We'll be on a call like this, and all of a sudden a latte will show up. Water will show up. My pills will show up, and I'm like, okay, I can't pop those while I'm on this. And so, excuse me for a minute. Okay, I'm good.
Gotta take my diabetes medicine. Sorry.
Like, I got stuff to do. And so the point in being is that when you start to ignore self, other things will happen.
Right.
And so, you were going to say, yes, please.
Yeah, just saying, like, just even look at our kids, right? Like when we see kids acting up, we're like, oh, they're tired. Oh, they're hungry. Oh, they're depleted. Like they're dehydrated, right? We don't even think about that for ourselves. And then when our behavior is changing towards that amazing spouse that we have, and they're like, whoa, like what's gotten into you, like what happened to your, who got into your Wheaties this morning?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, me, because we don't see that. We don't see what's going on as we do with our children. I was just talking to my kids about how we connect, because I had a beautiful show with one of our mutual friends, actually, Ariane, and she was my guest last week. And we were talking about the spiritual child and how do we teach our kids to connect. And so every day I'm talking to my kids about like touching your heart and breathing your heart. And But while I'm doing that, guess what I'm doing? I'm taking that moment for myself
Yes.
to breathe into my heart, to
Yep.
model for my kids. And then all of a sudden I feel better because I tell them our breath is like God. Like the first thing we do when we're born to know we're alive, we take that breath.
Yes.
You know, it may or may not be after that spanking you were talking about, but we take that breath. And then, so if that is true, if we could just adopt that belief that that is an opportunity to take in the universe, take in God, whatever you want to call it, and we bring it in through our body.
Yes.
And we allow it to just penetrate to our heart and just hold it in there. Just by doing that for 2 seconds, literally changes the way my body feels.
Absolutely.
And my husband just sent me something on Instagram. And here's a funny story. I don't know if he sends me the stuff on Instagram because he wants to really make me listen to some really good stuff, or if it's just he doesn't want to lose that and he wants to go back to it. So he just sends me everything because all of a sudden my Instagram is getting filled with all these reels. And some of them are not pertinent to my life. Really. I really don't care how to take care of a Highland cow like that. I really don't want to know that. But I get reels like that. So this one reel was talking about breathing. So of course I pay attention to it and I was listening to it. And he said that when you take a breath in and then just that after you inhale as much as you can, and then you take a little short, you decrease your stress that's literally in your body by a certain percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, that is amazing. And I'm sure I'm the only person that's listening to this that says, I don't feel stress in my body. I love what I do. Like I'm good. I've eaten, I've drank milk. I've drank water, not milk, water, drinking my water. I feel good. I've slept good. Like I'm not stressed. Stressed? What are you talking about? Stress. And the minute I do that breathing technique, my body just feels different. Like it's like literally a physiology test.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's self-care. But here's the real deal if you want to know if you need self-care. I was talking to a friend Friday night or Saturday night, I think. I don't know. It was this weekend sometime. And we were just talking about different things. And she said, Veenu, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, sure. And she says, do you self-care? And all of a sudden I started to cry. And she goes, there's my answer. And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying right now. And she's like, I do. And to be honest, it's that connection you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It was that somebody wasn't there to take from me.
Yes.
There was somebody to give to me without me asking.
Yes.
Just by checking in. And it was just a simple question, Veenu, have you self-cared? Do you self-care? And it was that connection I felt with her in that moment. And she says, I'm going to tell you something. This is one of my specialties. And she says, anything to disconnect and take a moment for you can be self-care. It doesn't have to be a fancy massage or a facial. She says, that's all great. And I highly recommend it. And it's leaving your desk, putting on your favorite music, your favorite podcast, and just going for a 15-minute walk.
Absolutely.
And she gives so many different little things. And that's another reason why I felt like, you know what, if I am not thinking of this, there's got to be more Venus out there that aren't thinking of this.
Oh, listen, we're all guilty. And part of this is where freedom comes from is what you let go of. We are so inspired by others that are doing constantly. And in fact, we'll even make the comments, I don't know how you fit all that into a day. Oh my gosh, if I could only be like you, if I could only do more, if I could only be more productive, I would be happier. And I'm like going, brother, sister, please, like, do you really understand what you're saying? Because the truth is, many people who are achievers are in awe of people who can just chill out and relax. And I want to circle back real quickly, if I may, Veenu, to what you said about with the kids. And this is so imperative, so imperative. Telling them is different than sharing and showing them. And their energy is directly tied to yours, when they can feel the congruency, the authenticity, and that, hey, mommy's doing this. Now they have a model. Now they can feel, it's like, okay, I'm not going to be judged because they're just going to watch me do it. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Do as I tell you to do. No, sharing is caring. So when you show, they're connected.
Absolutely. And doing it with them, right? Like
Oh.
taking that moment, because like you said, when you're just telling them, you tell them something, they're like, okay, yeah. So mom, let me tell you about that soccer ball I saw in the store today. And you're like, whoa, wait, we're talking about connecting. Yeah. I heard you. But I really want to tell you about the soccer ball I saw.
Right.
When you take that moment though.
Yes.
Okay, let's just do it together.
For me or with me. For me is an ask. With me is an invitation.
Oh, I like that.
And that's the power. That's when we get to have that connection. It's like, ooh, no one likes to be told what to do. Everyone loves to be invited. Everybody loves to be invited. And so, coming full circle with the body, mind, spirit aspect is many times people are struggling with body. And the reason why their mind isn't into it is because mindset is based on heart set. So if we're not emotionally sound, if we don't feel spiritually connected, if we're not believing till we achieve, but we just feel like we're going to fake it till we make it. If I just do it, and I hate it every day, but I'm still going to do it. And I start to see a little bit of progress, but I hate it. I'm like, oh, wow. First of all, hate's a strong word. Second of all, if you despise that engagement and it doesn't feel congruent with who you are, then all you're doing is creating a false pretense or a false identity.
Right.
You'll only be able to fake it for a short time. And that's why most people's diets and nutrition are short term. Oh,
it goes back to last week. They're faking it to make it, right?
That's it. So 30 days in and they're like busting and trying to make it happen. And it's like, but it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening. They don't feel congruent. They don't feel connected. The other part is we get to slow down. What COVID did for everyone, irrespective of political affiliation, race, religion, creed, sexual orientation, COVID's like a honey badger. It didn't give a flying flip. It's here and it's just trying to survive. There's COVID, there's Omicron, there's a Delta. I mean, it's like, oh, for the love of Pete, how many different versions of this same nasty bug are there?
Well, I figured that we were going to get to Z because there's, that many letters in the alphabet. But I mean, I guess we're still working on it, huh?
Now we'll start giving it numbers or Greek letters or whatever the case might be. So in slowing down, one of the things that I've found when I schedule it is meditation.
Mm.
And people go, oh, it takes a long time to meditate though, Chuck. If you're going to go deep, it takes a long time. I said, actually, that's not true. It's not true at all. In fact, there are different frequencies and chimes and feedback models that you can play on your phone, different hertz, if you will, that will allow you to tap into that energetic frequency of you. And they go, well, how do I know which ones? I said, Google it and see. We have chimes that we'll use. And for paying attention, and we did this with our children when they were young. It was just like these little bars that were resting on a bamboo plate. And you would take the little mallet and you ting, ting.
Yeah.
And you sit there and listen for as long as you possibly could. And it's amazing because it takes everything that's out here and brings it right here. And nothing else matters in that moment. Breathing, relaxing, releasing. And it's not, I haven't even played a chime. And even in just this space of just this moment, it's like just taking a moment to breathe, center your weight, get out of this head space. It gets crowded in here.
Well, it also, when you say that, because in the media, like I was just automatically focusing as if I heard a sound too, by the way, that was kind of crazy. And it took all the other thoughts I had going on in my head and silenced them.
Yes.
to really focus. So it's because it's where we focus. And it goes to show you, what are we focused on? We're focused on everything, which means we're not focused on anything.
Yes.
So it's put your attention and intention on what is it that you really want in that moment. And I will say this for myself, and I mean, I would love to hear your stories too about, I think it's important that our audience hears, like, this is really living to us. And that's why we're doing this, like Live Now with Veenu and Chuck, because it's bringing our own stories, to the forefront, so people know that it's us. But I can tell you, for me, that when I self-care and I'm like on the massage table or whatever, at first I'm feeling it, I'm into it. And then all of a sudden, probably about 15 minutes in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder how much longer this is, because I got a call today and oh my gosh, I forgot, I got to go pick up my kids' meds. And oh wait, I got to stop by and get their almond milk because we're out of that. And so all of a sudden my self-care is done.
Yes.
It is done. The massage isn't done, but my self-care is done, because it's no longer about self. And I want to circle back to that, about the word self.
Yes.
Self isn't us. Self isn't you. Self isn't we. It is a full me. So the moment our mind starts to go about everyone else, we are officially out of self-care, regardless of the behavior that's still happening in that moment.
And the only time it becomes selfish is when we judge.
Oh, I like that too.
So self-care is exactly that. You are caring for self. If you drive your car as hard as you push your body and you never change the oil, you never put fuel in it, you never check the tires, you don't get it tuned up, it's going to prematurely break down. And you might start hearing some knocks and pings, or in our case, some groans and ohs and aches and oohs. And it's like, wow, I'm feeling 90 today. And I'm nowhere near that. So when is it that you feel like you're 15 again or 18? It's like, what's the difference? Most of the time, I can almost invariably guarantee you that it's when you're not in your head.
Right. You're not thinking about consequences. You're not thinking about what people are judging you or not. You're not really thinking. You're just being in the moment.
You're being.
Right.
And therein lies the rub. When we start to feel selfish, and it's a feeling, and it's not just one feeling, it's like, ooh, procrastination. I'm being selfish. I should be doing something else. My kids have needs. And I said, yes, I've never met a person yet that doesn't have needs. Not one. And I hear people that they use that kind of that phrase, oh, I have no wants, I have no needs. And I was like going, wow, really?
Really? Tell me your secret.
Yeah, you don't need oxygen? Oh my gosh. How do you pull that one off? And they go, oh no, you know what I mean. I said, no. I said, I admire you because you've gotten to a point where you've scheduled all of your needs in self-care, and they are on a schedule of care and maintenance. So you're aware. It just happens.
But here's the truth. Like literally, here's the truth, is those people are not self-caring either.
No.
Because they don't believe that self-care is part of it. They believe, like I've seen people, they go and have like the beautiful cars and the palace homes and the great vacations, and they work till eons of the night, and they're home for dinner though, so they have their family time at dinner, and they're like, I have no needs, like my life is happy. Well, I'm curious, where's your self-care routine? Yes. I mean, I'll go like hunting on the weekend, once every 5 months, or I'll go on the golf course once a month. It's like, okay, again, where's your self-care?
Yes.
But we have programmed our brain that we don't need it. And that brings us to like, so I would love if you're open to sharing, like, what's the consequences
I can tell you.
No self-care?
Well, it's absolute fatigue. in your body, mind, and spirit. It is loss of drive where you don't even feel, to say that you're driven is one thing. You get to a point of indecision and indiscretion where you really don't care about anything.
Right.
And as someone who's been there, I can tell you that you go into an altered state where it seems indifferent. And although you are loved beyond any scope of imagination, there's nothing that anyone can say to you in that moment because you don't care about yourself.
Right.
And it's frightening for everybody else. The last thing you would ever want to do becomes the catalyst for creating a lot of concern for other people that love and care about you. I can tell you from experience that being in an altered state can make you do silly things like go on a 30-mile walk that wasn't planned.
With no food or water.
No food or water, with no wallet and no phone. So no one knows where you're at. And people go, why in the frick would you do that? Because at that time, I needed to connect with myself.
Right.
And those steps and hearing my own breath and feeling my own heartbeat and feeling the sun on the back of my neck and the heat that my body was producing. Now, is that a great strategy? Oh no. And I wouldn't recommend that someone go out and do that. What I would recommend is make release and outlets of people that you can connect and speak to unadulterated without feeling any shame, without feeling any embarrassment, without feeling judged. And that means as well.
Right. Right. And I'll tell you,
If you've already been for self, there's nothing anyone else is going to be able to tell you that's going to take you out of that. There's
right.
time, there's energy, and there's space. And it wasn't till slowing down and breathing and getting out of oneself that you actually become connected to self.
And it's so interesting because in that moment of that state, you're supposed to be thinking of yourself, but you're not thinking of yourself in a way that's self-caring. You're thinking of yourself in a way that's selfish.
Yes.
Because you're just not, again, you're not in your right mind. You're not in that.
Well, your energy is so low, Veenu, that you don't even know what you don't know.
Right. And you can't snap. It's not, you just can't snap your finger and someone say, oh, I love you. Oh, you love me. Okay, great. Okay. You ready to go get dinner? It does not work that way. It took you how many weeks and months it took you to get to that state. And one simple, I love you is not going to take you out of it. It's, you got it. Now you're in it. Now you got to process through it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I've learned from similar situations. And I will tell you, I have never walked 30 miles and I probably never will. But if I do, I'll bring my phone and call you to get advice on how to get back home because my legs are probably going to kill me. And it's knowing what we need to know. And that's why Chuck and I are taking this time to share this with you, because we want you guys to hear this. Take note of when this starts to happen so you don't fall into the pit, because that is like the bottom pit. Like when you're there now. And now it's, you got to come to your senses to even want to get out of it. And then you got to be able to be vulnerable enough to get help to get out of it. And in that moment, you don't know, like you don't, like you said, you don't know what you don't know in that moment. So let's help our audience. We have a few more minutes left. Let's help them to start seeing warning signs.
Yes. Yes. There's something very important in all of this too that I'll remind folks, and that is let your ego aside. People don't want to be a problem. So for most folks, that are headed down this path, they look at everybody else and ignore their needs. They will say, I don't want to be a hindrance. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a problem. And yet they don't see any of the gifts in them. They don't see any of the contributions and the value in self, but yet they'll give that to everybody else. And this is one of the things that you can start to see. Most times, people that are headed down this path are givers. They're not the takers. They are givers. So that's probably the easiest category. You have three types of folks. You have givers, takers, and matchers. Givers give how often? All the freaking time. Takers take all the freaking time. Matchers are looking for ecology. They give and receive, but they learn to become gracious receivers because it completes the cycle of giving, that process. But you bring up a great point, Veenu. And if you start to see folks that when you're checking in and you trust your intuition, that they may be feeling a little hollow. And you're like, what does that mean? Well, it's kind of like if I take a coconut filled with coconut milk and I knock on it, it doesn't sound hollow. It sounds solid.
Right.
If you shake it, you're like going, oh, and that sounds slushy on the inside. Now, I'm not recommending that you take another human being and shake them to see if they're slushy on the inside, but you can check to see if energetically, if they're hollow or if you feel like they're actually in that matching mode, or because again, you're going to know the people who are givers because they give to you how often? All the freaking time. They're always asking you how you're feeling. They're always asking you how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the category of people. They're like who? Well, the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa back in the day, Nelson Mandela, but it could be the pastor. You know, it's interesting. Do you know the occupation that has the highest level of self-harm?
No.
Psychiatrists.
Huh.
Because
So
they're
ironic,
the
don't you think?
professionals who speak with everybody, and yet they have the hardest time speaking to others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like this rite of passage. So there are a lot of people who are coaches. There are a lot of people who are strategists. There are a lot of people who are mentors, entrepreneurs, leaders in industry.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a challenging time because who coaches the coach or the master?
Right. Well, it's hard to be vulnerable because I can tell you from experience, I was there. I was a director of a mental health institution here where I live. I was still suicidal. Nobody knew. I wore that mask well. It was, and I was seeing a therapist. However, that was it. Like I thought, oh, I see a therapist once a week. I'm good. You know, I'm releasing. I'm good. You know, I took my antidepressants. I took my anti-anxiety medicine. I'm good. And I wasn't good.
No.
And it's funny because, you know, I still have a couple of my friends that I was friends with back then. And we, you know, we're still friends to this day. And when we talk about it, they're like, I never knew. And I said, I deserved an Emmy. Like, I really did. Like, because nobody knew. You know, here I'm helping everyone else. And of course, you know, we have a mentor in common that we go to the seminars, and that he asked that question, how many of you know someone on an antidepressant? Everyone raised their hand. He's like, keep your hands up. And how many of those people are still depressed? Nobody hands go down. But I wasn't thinking about myself, by the way, when I was doing my hand. I was thinking about all my clients. I was thinking about people. Like, it never dawned on me that I was on antidepressants, that I was still depressed.
There's nothing wrong with me. The other part is therapy. It's great to speak to people. And the challenge, though, is that when you keep rehashing the same scenarios and using those reference points, so you what you're doing is you're driving and you're like, hey, we're moving forward from here, but look back look in the rear view mirror, because you remember where this all comes from, right? And so we've committed to moving away from that, where focus goes, energy flows. And if the brain doesn't process negative, then it's looking for evidence. So we get to shift where our focus goes. I'm going to be very blunt about something for a moment. And in other environments, I have spoken very openly about this with people. And so I'm just going to put it out there. If you do not value yourself and you feel like you have no voice and you have no one to talk to, I'm going to implore you. In fact, I'm going to grovel a little bit here and suggest that you stop holding back your voice,
Yes.
that you
Yes.
express yourself, that you engage yourself, that you reach out to someone, because you're not broken, number one. Number two, things that are left in the world of the unspoken are what create emotional cancer. They set false precedents in your own mind because you feel like yourself. If you just scream into the pillow that it's going to be enough. And the truth is, that's not true. People who have ultimately taken their own life wasn't because they weren't worthy. It's because they felt unworthy. They did not want to be an issue for someone else. We've lost Robin Williams. We've lost Twitch. We've lost so many people by everyone else's perception, like when they're famous, they're loved.
Yeah, what happened?
They create so much happiness. And it's like, yes, and they were suffering in silence. They had no one that they felt they could express this to.
And sometimes it's not even that, because I know Robin Williams was very close to his wife.
Mhm.
She talked very highly of him. Sometimes it's being able to vent about something is one thing, and being able to move forward through it, not around it, is a different thing. And so it's not just looking for someone to talk to, it's looking at someone that can help you get to the other side of it. It's realizing that there is another side of it, because I'm going to tell you, that's it. We don't, because I've been there, right? We don't realize their sides. We don't realize that, hey, if this is a circle and I'm fully in the middle of it, that all I have to do is take a step outside the circle. That's all I have to do is take one step out. We think that circle just closes in on us and there is no out, like we're just trapped. And I'm here to tell you personally that you can take a step outside that circle. And there is something outside that circle that has a bright light. And I will say this, and I'm not religious, but I know that a lot of people have heard this, that it's always dark before it's dawn. But there is a dawn and there is a light, and there is that in your life as well. And sometimes you can't see it, but when you allow someone else in your life to help open up that circle, to just peek out a little bit, all of a sudden the light becomes brighter and brighter. So just like Chuck is saying, like, we invite you to create that conversation with someone, reach out to Chuck and I. We have a plethora of people that we know personally that can support you in taking a peek outside that circle.
Because Veenu, you brought up a great point, and it comes down to trust and believing till you achieve. There has to be a belief that there's something greater, better, there's an opportunity. Because I can tell you that when you're looking for the signs, it's not going to be obvious, because many of these people deserve Oscars. Robin Williams, by all accounts, you wouldn't have known. And there are people that I know that by all accounts, to look at them, to look at their Instagram, their Facebook, their Twitter, their bank account, these people are successful, and yet they're gone. There's something not for us to judge, but to understand and appreciate and love and learn from, that was missing. And they weren't being fulfilled. They had the signs of success down. They knew how to make everyone else happy and laugh, and most of the time at their own expense.
But again, it goes down to self-care, right? And I think that's the foundation of what Chuck and I are here to talk to you about tonight. And just kind of wrap it up, here's what I want to say to kind of close the circle, is that you know, the foundation of being able to live and give beyond yourself is to make sure you're filling up your own cup first.
Yes.
Because you can't give anything out of an empty cup except for like air, fumes, whatever, right? And fumes only last so long in survival. And that's when you go into survival. So give yourself the gift of self-care so you can give other people the best of you as well, and not just the rest of you. Chuck, what else do you have to say?
I'm going to make it real simple. And that is, ask yourself how you need to feel most often today. Ask yourself, give yourself that one gift. And I'm going to give you a 2.5-minute exercise that you can impart and take advantage of or not. For 1 minute in the morning before you head out, you're going to go ahead and ask yourself, how do I need to feel most often today? And you're going to schedule one thing, any direction that will take you towards feeling that way. So if that's a phone call with someone, if that's an engagement with someone, it's a lunch, it's a breakfast, it's a coffee, it's a tea, if it's working out, if it's at the end of the day that you plan on spending time with your betrothed, your significant other, your kids, whatever the case might be, awesome. In the evening, closing your day before you go to bed, ask yourself, how did I feel most often today? And what did that mean to me? And ask yourself this before you go to bed, because it'll set the frame for the next day when you ask yourself how you need to feel most often. How do I need to feel tomorrow? Because what you'll find is that when you start to future pace this and you create this conditioning in your own mind's eye, you will set the frame of possibility. Because everything that we live for is a feeling. Everything. It's never about the action. It's never about the situation. It's only the meaning we give it. So give yourself that gift.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for all those that tuned in or will be tuning in to the recording of Live Now with Veenu and Chuck. Again, we'll be doing this for the rest of March. Meet us here at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Mondays. And in April, we'll be excited to see you back on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Keep letting your light shine. Bye-bye.
Yes.